So, to cause that to happen at a high level, first speaker I asked to actually come present for us is one of my favorite disruptors in chiropractic. He absolutely, when he comes to speak, and I didn't know if, were you presenting also in this first segment, or is it just Lacey for the first segment?
Whatever you want. We're just going to go together.
Awesome, perfect. I wasn't sure, I was trying to communicate with you. I had asked them to come speak, and I'm going to talk about Shawn first and then Lacey. Dr. Shawn Dill is one of my favorite lecturers always. He tells it as it is from his truth. And he doesn't really care whether you agree with him or not, absolutely. And he's just going to give it to you as it is because he knows he's got to speak truth to you. Not everybody sees it from his perspective, and that's totally fine. He does not care. He's just here to offer what he can to improve you. They are so massively successful in chiropractic, not because they just want to succeed, they want to help create a successful movement. A generation of chiropractors who's succeeding in practice because patients need the care. They've got a good model. They've got multiple clinics they own, and they just acquired a company called Chiro Sushi. If you know what they are, their marketing company. They are doing so well, and it's a complete honor to learn from them anytime they're available. Now, Dr. Lacey Book, she is a steamroller that is like come on the scene. It seems like you just started. It's so weird. It seems like you just started like a year ago or something. But it's been, when did you graduate? 2009. But she's like coming to the forefront of the profession, like speakers at conferences, and her. If you've watched her, I'm sorry to talk about this like I'm her father or something, but if you've watched her development as a speaker, like it just exponentially just took off. I mean, she was good, but she was passionate, but then she started getting the experience and started to refine it, and then she just became a great speaker. So they're both highly sought after speakers around the country. So please help me welcome Shawn Dill and Lacey Book.
We made it. We just flew in, like literally just flew in. We're on a stint of traveling 13 weeks in a row, so don't mind us with the time zones and travel. So Shawn and I love to present together. This is something that we've started doing over the last, maybe a year?
2 years.
Has it been 2 years? Maybe about 2 years.
Yeah. We're going to do sort of workshop style. I think I'm coming back tomorrow doing a presentation. Tomorrow what we're going to try and do is I'm going to see if we can give you, in whatever time period that we have, if we can show you how to double your, what do you want to do? We want to double your revenue, triple your profits.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be fair if we could do that? Regardless of whatever you're in, double your revenue, triple your profits in the amount of time that Stan and Kelsey give us. We like to, obviously, as Stan said, do everything way outside the box. So just right up front, we're only talking to like 5 of you. And we understand that, totally get it. We're going to speak into some concepts that the majority of you are going to be like, no way. Mostly too because we're talking to a very analytical group, because it's an orthogonally based mindset with numbers and angles. And when building a business, we actually have to be able to build a logical case, which I think you guys are really good at, but we also have to build an emotional case. And so sometimes if we're very analytically minded, it's tough to really embrace that emotional side. And then what we want to try to tackle today is to get you to understand how we can sort of embrace these concepts to help you to build your business. 2 main reasons. 1, so that we can reach more people. That's what Lacey and I are all about, reaching more people. And then 2, so you can make more money. But there's a caveat to that. I'm going to put all of the sales, I always do this, if you've ever heard either of us speak, we're going to put all of the sales right up front, right now. Here comes everything we're going to sell you. Here's the caveat. We help service providers be more successful with one condition, and that is that you give back. And not to us, right? So Lacey and I both serve on the board of directors at IFCO. I serve on the board at the Australian Spinal Research Foundation, which requires me to travel 2 times a year to Australia for board meetings. I serve on the board of trustees at Sherman College, which, if you don't know, we were up until 12:30 last night because we're right in the middle of a giant mess. Thank you, Dr. Brooks, for an email that hit the board. And so the board was aware of that and appreciates your support. Trying to figure out where we stand collectively on that issue. But we need your support. It doesn't do you any good to be ultra successful someplace off on an island and not giving back to the profession. And doing a Facebook Live or writing a nice post, Sherman's great, or that doesn't help. Like, actually putting, boots on the ground is what we need. Now, here's what happens. When I talk to people, and this kind of became a theme of Lacey and I's over the past year, that people would say, look, IFCO, Sherman, we love Sherman, ASRF, who agrees that we need more research? Australian Spinal Research Foundation has pledged $1 million over the next 5 years towards validating one thing and one thing only, and that is the word subluxation. If you don't know what our research agenda is, I invite you to go onto our website, look at what we're looking at. We have one goal: define it, see how to measure it, and then figure out how to correct it. And we're funding $1 million over the next 5 years in order to figure that out. So a couple of things. One, if you're like, that would be nice, but you don't actually participate, but you're research-minded, you're on the sidelines. Two, if you're not research-minded, like me, I'm not going to do any research, then you need to jump in the game, either financially or with your time, your talent, giving back, helping to move that needle and push that forward. So if we could show you over this weekend how to become more abundant, reaching more people, and making more money, do you promise that you will give at least a portion of that, right? Tithing back into this very thing that will, because if you don't have Epic, if you don't have chiropractic, we could teach you how to sell things, but it would not be from a place of integrity, right? And so that's what we want to do. Today we're going to talk about marketing, way outside the box, but we're going to talk to you about how we can reach more people. Anything to add there?
No, but I was going to say we do have a group called the Black Diamond Club that has over 400 service professionals in it. And what we do is we teach marketing, sales, and mindset strategies that are going to be against the grain of what you've been taught when you've been in school or taught by other people in the profession. And so that's when you were talking about the status quo and challenging that, that's what we love to do. Because would you all agree that chiropractic as a whole, over the entirety of the time it's been in existence, if anybody looked at it like a business, it would be a successful business or a failing business? Failing business, because our market share probably has actually decreased, and in fact we're graduating more chiropractors. So that means that if we want drastically different results, like our patients, we need to do something drastically different. And so for Shawn and I, we look at how can we do things drastically different than we've been taught when it comes to marketing, when it comes to sales, when it comes to the way that you think about your business. And by teaching those strategies, we work to help service professionals just like you reach more people so you can be more successful, so you can give back to the organizations that keep this thing going.
Yeah, we've been on this business journey for the past couple of years. As Stan said, we just acquired the media company Cairo Sushi. We operate a franchise of 17 offices that operate around the country. We're beginning our ventures into Mexico, so moving that international. We do mission trips to El Salvador to Mexico. We're going to the Philippines here in November. And we try to do as much as we possibly can to really give back. And if you actually cracked open Lacey and I, so a lot of people sometimes look at some of the things we do and they're like, what does that have to do with anything? We're about to launch into the EHR business. We're launching a product that's called Katana. Everything that we do is aimed at getting more people, and I'll keep this in this room, under upper cervical care. So Cairo Sushi and the acquisition, 6,000 people on that Facebook page. We're going to begin to start to have a very upper cervical slant in our messaging there, trying to move students and chiropractors more towards this, and that's kind of what Stan references. When I speak to chiropractic groups, and Lacey as well, when we speak to just general chiropractic groups, last weekend we were at ChiroFest in Washington, it's a very upper cervical message. It used to be a very in-your-face, like punch you in the nose kind of message, but I think we've learned a little bit of how to temper that and make it a little bit
You learned how to temper that. I did a good job at that.
You tempered me. So let's dive in. I want to give you, because we don't have the time to fully explore this theme, so there's a homework. I want you to read a book, and you guys will like it because it's very dry and analytical. And the book is called Pendulum. And it's by Roy Williams. This is the precursor, the starting point that I think is so eye-opening for chiropractors. They take a look historically at these pendular swings in society, which basically is fascinating. If you get into this, it's unbelievably fascinating. They're on 20-year cycles. They trace it all the way back, basically as far as we can in society, where we're on these 20-year cycles. It's 20 years up, 20 years down, 20 years up, and 20 years down, moving between the height of what's called an individualistic movement and then the height of a community movement. In the individualistic movement, it's all about me. In the community movement, it's all about we. The height of the last individualistic movement was 1983. You look historically what's going on, and you look at a lot of things like music, literature, a lot of the movements in politics, what's popular, and there's a lot of signals that happen through music and literature that signal these shifts. 1983, what was popular was Michael Jackson, Madonna. We're living in a material world. You tried to dress and look as outlandish and stand out as you could because it was about attracting attention to you. You wanted to be you-oriented. 1983 to 2003 brings us back to neutral, and 2003 to 2023 moves us into the we cycle, the we society. If you start to look around 2003, the bottom of that cycle, that's when you have the genesis and evolution of things, right in like around a 5-year period. Either way, you have Facebook, Google, you have these different things, the social media, right? So this is called social, and you begin to move the consciousness more towards we care what everybody else is doing. You see things like a shooting in a nightclub in Orlando, and then you have people in Europe that change their profile picture in support, right? You have hurricanes, and you have people on the West Coast that are like concerned about it. In 1983, you didn't really care what was happening in North Carolina. If you lived in California, you were like, not my problem. Do you like my glove, or do you like my jacket? Right? It was all about what was you. People always ask, like, well, man, you know what? How long do you think Facebook's going to be around? And I would say it has at least another 5-year run in it, right? Because we're going to run up to 2023 when we'll be actually at the peak of that community movement, and then we'll see some changes. Interestingly, if you're old enough to remember, music really signals a lot of these changes. We see shifts in music. We had shifts where we went from more of this sort of old style music, jazz and that type of music, into this rock. And another thing that's very interesting is our society here in the United States, very fascinatingly, so you can track this now, won't let a minority move that needle. So you had Chuck Berry, and then in order to flip it to full-on flip, we had to bring Elvis. Then we moved it with the rap movement, and we had Run DMC movement like that, and then you have Eminem, Beastie Boys, and then it's like, oh yeah, and then it shifts, and you can track it in music, you can track it in the #1 books.
And advertising.
And advertising, if you go back and look at all of McDonald's slogans, they are right on top of that me movement. They're changing it between you and we, just on course. Here's the take home for you. The majority of successful chiropractors that you know made their killing when? During the Mercedes 80s, which was the peak of the me movement. We are now tracking in the we movement. And so the things that are being taught through practice management, this is how I made my way, this is what I did to build my practice, that stuff doesn't work today. And that is the stuff that is so scary to me, because you see these, quote, old-timer mentors, and we're at this weird transition where they found massive success through that 80s period, and then it shifted. We in this room think what shifted was insurance reimbursement. That's not what shifted. The social consciousness shifted, and it's tracked in a book that I didn't write. It's tracked in a book that tracks us back to the history of time, that the consciousness moved away from sitting down with somebody and saying, do you know that there's 5 stages of degeneration, and do you know which one you're in, which is a me communication. I'm going to scare you, to let's talk about what the collective community and social impact that this is having on us, right? And so when we change the message away from you're screwed, to we, the community begins to move. They're very interested in what's going on collectively, and they actually have a very diminished interest in what they're doing individually. This is a very important construct for us to get as we then explain how we, in 2018 to 2023, are marketing. And the last thing before we do that, for a couple of you in this room, I have a couple of coaching clients who are older. So if you've been in practice 20 plus years and you plan on practicing more, this is a very scary time. Because I have clients that and you probably know if you've been in practice for a while, you've seen some of your colleagues find themselves in trouble as their practice all of a sudden starts to go in a bad direction and they can't figure out why. It's basically, I've been doing everything that I've always done, it just doesn't seem to work today. These silly kids, stupid millennials, they don't get it. And it's not that, it's just that you are not, the train left you. And you're standing there and the train moved. It has nothing to do with people getting it, it's actually you don't get it. But one of my fears is that I fear that we're going to see a lot of, I already know we're seeing it now, but I fear that we'll begin to see a lot more of very successful chiropractors who are known in our circles begin to find themselves in financial trouble because of failure to adapt. This is crazy, right? It's a chiropractic thing. Chiropractic's all about adaptation. Another concept that I just want to give you this for the whole weekend because I also know Stan and Kelsey's teaching style and how they are going to challenge you. Not only when you are challenged should you open up, but I also want to encourage you. It's a concept that I talk about a lot called mirror, mirror. And anytime that you're having issues, when you feel challenged, you need to look at yourself and see where you reflect that behavior. For example, chiropractors don't like it that their patients don't refer. I get that all the time. Like, well, people don't refer, they don't get it. I always say to them, well, how much do you refer to things? Or another example is people don't value care. I said, well, how much do you pay for things? Are you consulting with somebody? Do you pay a high-profile coach a lot of money? Lacey and I do. Like money that when we began was uncomfortable for us. But that's what allows us today to command the fees that we command because we have already paid. So many people say, Shawn, well, I would if I could, to which I always answer back, no, you could if you would. Right? You have to take that first step. So we're going to challenge you in some thought processes on how to market and how to drive this chiropractic message out into your community.
So I want to start with the basic premise to build all of us on, because Shawn was talking about now the pendulum has swung and we are in this we society, which means that people love to engage in activities that other people are doing, right? They don't like to do solo trips anymore, do things by themselves. People, it's that kind of herd mentality that we hear about. People love to engage in things that their friends and people that they know, like, and trust are engaging in. So the idea is that we want to essentially leverage this mentality in our offices to get people on board. So the premise behind all of this is really truly understanding two things. Number one, your ideal client, and number two, the target market. And I have to tell you, we work with a lot of chiropractors and people mix this up all the time. Don't understand truly the difference between an ideal client and a target market, right? So ideal client, how many of you know about Lululemon? How many of you have been in a Lululemon? If you go into a Lululemon, you cannot tell the difference between the people that are working there and the people that are shopping there because they're all wearing Lululemon. So this is a great thing for you guys to look up. I would encourage you, because we can't talk about it today in length, but Lululemon, the CEO that ran Lululemon, hit his ideal client on the head and honed her in so well that that company blew up to what it is today. And so his ideal client, this woman, was named Ocean. And you can look up all of the characteristics and traits that Ocean possesses that he understood deeply to figure out who she was, so he could create and tailor an environment and a culture that spoke to her. So Ocean is the ideal client. Do you remember all her traits?
She's in her 30s. She's
makes like $150,000 a year.
Makes over $100,000 a year. Likes to travel.
She has 1 hour a day to work out. 1 hour a day to work out. She loves to travel, is really important. And so he has all of these attributes listed out about Ocean, but she's the ideal client. So the target market is where Ocean likes to hang out. Where would you find a bunch of Oceans hanging out together? That's where he said to himself, yoga studios, Pilates, traveling in the airport. So the target market is where you find a bunch of your ideal clients congregating. So when you think of your ideal client, you put this person together, you then begin to understand, what does he or she like to do? What does she like to engage in? What activities does she engage in all the time? What kind of organizations does she support? It's just a tip. When you figure out your ideal client and you want to know what she loves, what she likes to read, what she supports, where she likes to hang out, where can you find that? Facebook. This is like the only time it's totally okay to be a Facebook stalker, is you go on there, you stalk your ideal client, and it says on there everything that she loves to do, the music she likes to listen to, the places she likes to go, the places she likes to shop, where she goes with her friends, the restaurant she eats at, and then you can take your ideal client and begin to understand the target market. So this is really important when we're going to talk about building a community in your office to attract tons of your ideal client.
And I don't know if you fully grasp that. I want to make sure that we could just go home for the whole weekend just with that. Ideal client, target market, and then the answer to every question you have. The answer to every question you have is ask your ideal client. What kind of music should I, even in Black Diamond Club, what kind of music should I play in the office? I don't know, whatever your ideal client listens to.
And what do we usually do? We play the music
That you
we like. And that's not what your ideal client likes.
Your ideal client should walk in and say, is that Ray LaMontagne? And you should be like, yeah, why? You like him? And you knew in advance. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's my favorite juice. You guys serve this here? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why, you like that juice? Yeah. Wow, that's how you do it. And then, you don't walk into my office and see Golf Digest, because that's what I want to read. You have to find Sunset. You have to find the magazines that your ideal client wants to read. And so everything, what hours should you have? The hours that your ideal client is available to come into your office. If your ideal client is a mom that has 2 kids in school, in elementary school, opening up being open from 7:30 to 9:30 and then being closed is not the best idea. Because they've got to get their kids off to school, and as soon as they drop them off to school, then they could come in. But if your ideal client works in the financial district in San Francisco, which their hours are 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., you probably need to be there at 4 a.m. because they can hit the office before, and then you're going to have a big rush from 2 to 4, and then you're done. Because in the financial district in San Francisco, it's ghost town after 4 or 5 p.m. But if that's your ideal client, you set it up that way.
And this is really important to consider, because what we've been taught historically is that we want to take care of everybody with a spine, right? That we need to get everybody into our office and we have to cast this huge wide net. But you have to understand, if you look at extremely successful businesses and you look at them through history, you look even at the successful businesses now, you're going to be hard pressed to find a business that is marketing to everyone. It just doesn't work that way. So if you want to increase your ability to serve more people, you have to hone in on who that individual is so we can create an environment that attracts them and, more importantly, keeps them there, right?
So 3 steps to bringing these people into your office. Number 1 is to create community and isolate them. So number 1 is create community and isolate them. Number 2 is sales events. Sales events or event-based marketing. And then number 3 is referral opportunities. So, number 1, create community and isolate them. We live in this world of Facebook and people like to be a part of communities. But before we do that, I want to talk to you about joining existing conversations. This is one where if you just were stalking Lacey and I's business model, you could read this wildly wrong. So we're going to give you this tip here to make sure that you're on the right track. Let's say that afterwards this evening, you see Lacey and I, and we're sitting at the bar, and you kind of walk up behind us, you're like, oh, I want to talk to them, and you're standing behind us, and you can hear us talking, and I'm saying, oh my gosh, man, Tiger Woods was on fire today. And she's like, yeah, man. And so was Ricky. And I was like, yeah, you should have saw the shot that they hit on number 8. And she's like, yeah. And I was like, man, that was crazy. Like the greens were rolling smooth and you were sitting there and you're like, I want to say something. And you're listening and you're like, well, how do I say something? And she's like, well, so what do you think? You think Ricky's going to be able to hang on? I mean, he's shot, I think that's 6 consecutive rounds in the 60s. And you go, how about them Buccaneers? What happens?
Something wrong with that?
What happens to us? What do we do?
Yeah,
We're
what?
like, what are you? If you wanted to say something to us, and I was doing that role play, what should you say? Something about golf. Hey, where are they playing? Are they in Atlanta this weekend? Yeah, it's in Atlanta. That's how you join an existing conversation. So here's what happens. We tell you ideal client, target market, you go out, you Facebook stalk, you're watching them, you're like, all right, I see them, I got them in the crosshairs, and then you come running in and you're like, let me tell you about the Atlas. It's like the cradle. It sits there and it holds the head, and it's about an 8 to 10 pound, and they're like, what? We were over here, we were talking about our kids and about Planet Lunchbox and about how I love that thing, and then you came rushing in here, and then you were telling me about the Atlas and how vaccines kill, and it was like, and it's shocking to people. And listen, again, this is being taught out there because that's what would work in the shock days of the 80s, right? You walk up on somebody and you shock the crap out of them, and they were like, hey, I want to be.
I'm going to try it out.
Right? The crazier you could be, then people were like, I want to be crazy like you. That's what worked. Now that's not what works. What works is, hey, all of the cool people are all over there in Epic. They're all taking this course. Really, in fact, there's a Cairo Thin. I know what it is. There's a Cairo Thin conference somewhere in Clearwater. Because I saw some people had posted, and then someone was like, hey, if you're going to Clearwater, come by. I don't know exactly where I'm going to the Cairo Thin thing, but there was some Cairo Thin people here outside, and they were like, hey, is this a chiropractic thing? And they were like, yeah, this is a chiropractic thing. And so that attraction, right? Like, what is it? What's going on in there?
It's creating what they call now FOMO, right? You guys heard of FOMO? Fear of missing out. All the millennials are using it. So if you see it, now you know. But that's exactly what you're doing. You need to create FOMO in your offices where you have a community that other people are peeking in and saying, I want to be a part of that. That's what we want you to do first.
So we want to join existing conversations. So as you're leveraging your Facebook, social media, stalking, or you don't have to do it by social media. For example, here's another exercise I want you to do. I want you to, even just this evening, I want you to think about your 5 favorite patients that you work with. Just write their names down. Right? Boom, boom. These are my 5 favorite patients. And I want you to think about the 5 least favorite patients. They're the ones that you see their name on the books and you're like, oh, God. I can't.
We all do it. It's okay.
And I'm looking for commonalities in the 5 favorites and the 5 non-favorites. But I'm not talking, you're going to play a superficial game. You want to play a deep game. Not like, oh, they're on time. I'm thinking, oh, they all like Dave Matthews Band. Isn't that weird? They all drive BMWs. Isn't that interesting? They all like bowling. Interesting. The people that I don't like, they all tend to shop at JCPenney. That's interesting, right? And so as I've isolated the 5, let's say that Kelsey is one of my 5. When you see her next week, I want you to say, Kelsey, love that shirt. That's awesome. Where'd you get that shirt? Express. And I go, check, Express. And then she leaves, and the next visit I see her, I say, oh my gosh, did you change your hair?
I did.
Where did you get your hair done? Aveda. Oh, and then boom. I am just reading her down. I love those shoes. Hey, what'd you do last weekend? I was out, me and Stan went to dinner. Where'd you go? Oh, I went to the Crab Shack. Oh my God, I love that place. And I'm just picking her apart because I'm reading, I not to proclaim it, I'm saying I like her as one of my favorite patients, and now I need to get to know her. What kind of music does she like? What'd you do last week? We went to a concert. What concert? Garth Brooks? Oh my God. Whatever it is, I'm beginning to really, and I don't think that you guys are reading your patients to that degree.
And I just need to give you a disclaimer here because what most people have a tendency to do, if you don't already understand your ideal client, what most people have a tendency to do is create their ideal client to look and mirror them. That is a very dangerous thing to be stepping into. And the reason that we do that is because we know ourselves pretty darn well. And it's really easy to write down on paper, oh, they all drive a BMW and they all shop at, Tom Ford, and they all do these different things. And, it's easy to make a reflection of that ideal client to be yourself. So if you're writing this person down and you're like, wow, that looks just like me, you have to remember these are not people that you want to hang out with, that you would go on adventure with in the weekends. These are people that actually fulfill you when you're able to make change in their life. That's very different, right? So that person doesn't need to be you. So just pay attention to that as you're putting them together as well.
Lacey and I are classic examples. We're the last two people that you want to see walking in.
We would be the worst patients ever.
Because you would be like, hey, you guys need to come next week, and we'll be like, oh, next week we're in Clearwater. Okay, well, what about the week after that? Well, we're going to be in San Diego. Like, we would be terrible, not from an economic standpoint, but from a commitment standpoint. Like, we just are gone all the time. We're used to bossing people around. We're probably not going to listen to you. We're not going to be that compliant. Like, so if we were to just say, I'm going to build a me and target me, that would actually be a pretty poor idea.
You'd have a failing business, right?
So once we have isolated who we want to have, now I know your interests, we need to pick something to create the community around. And it's not going to be chiropractic. What? Because most people aren't walking around that interested or talking about chiropractic right now.
So this is not a health class, is what we're saying. It's not a screening and not a chiropractic event.
It's just something that they like to do. Let's give you some examples. One of our most popular ones, and we have 17 clinics. This is a strategy we utilize in all 17. They don't all have the same ideal client or target market, therefore they don't utilize the same tactic, just the same strategy. Popular ones, book clubs. A book club that's called Books and Bubbly or Books and Bevs, where people come, they read a book, they share with each other, and they bring either craft brew or wine, and they get to come to our office and sit down, and they form their community. Here's one of the things that's the craziest thing. In the world of Kindles and iPads, people are actually falling in love with paper books. Mm-hmm. They like, Oprah capitalized on the Oprah Book Club, and they get these books, and then here's what happens is that I'm friends with Stan. I'm going to say, Stan, you should come to this book club. And he's going to be like, I don't know. Here's another aside, I need you to understand. A friend of mine, Shawn one day told me, Shawn, you should go do yoga. If you could understand this psychology, here's where you win. I was like, yeah. He's like, think about how great it would be for your golf game. I was like, you're right. I totally should do that. And he was like, yeah, I think you would love it. I think you would really. And I thought to myself, this is a fantastic idea. And I had this whole conversation with him about it, and then I hung up the phone, and guess what I did? Nothing. Now, if you understood why, you would win. Do you know why I didn't go?
No commitment.
Because I was.
He didn't go with you.
Yes.
Yes.
Because I was afraid. He lives in Massachusetts, and he just told me, and I was like, so what do I do? Look online? There's a million types of yoga. Do I need special clothes? What about those I don't even have the mat. Do I have to sign up for a year-long thing? I had so many questions that it stopped me, and if he wanted me, all he would have had to have said is, listen, I go every week.
Come with me.
Come with me. That's the power of this. Stan, I go to this book club. I know you're going to love it. We read a lot of really cool books. We read books about sports heroes, and we talk about it, and we drink scotch and smoke cigars. You would love it. It's on the first Wednesday of every month. Come, and then I bring Stan. Stan comes to the book club, and we've now enrolled him into our community. Who's the boss? Who's the leader of the community?
No.
Me. And they're like, wow, Shawn, there's one objective in creating this community, and that is that your community says, wow, you are really cool. That's it. Because that is the first step towards building relationship.
You have to understand this is a low barrier to entry offer.
Or no barrier.
Or no barrier, right? Because this doesn't require any real commitment on the individual's end to come into your space. And that's a big thing in chiropractic, because most of the time when we're inviting people into our space, we're inviting them to do what? Exams, free consultations, come check out what I do. And if they're not ready and you don't have the trust and credibility built or the relationship, they have a tendency to do this, and you've lost them forever. Now, when you create community that they love, they are asking to come in to your space.
So there's a couple criteria for this. It's called and always have something to invite people to offer.
We call
Always
it
have something to
ash
invite
tiptoe.
people to offer. We call it an ash tiptoe. Always have something to invite people to offer. Here's the criteria. One, it must be regular. You just do this like, happenstance. It's regular.
Once a
At
month
least
is
once
a
a month.
good
At least
amount.
once a month
Yeah.
it gets together. Two, it must be consistent. So that means that I know when it is. It's not like I don't have to search it out. It's the first Monday of every month, or it's on the 15th of every month, or the third Tuesday. I know when it is. Three, it brings people together, so it creates community. And four is it's varied. So it can't be like, oh, I went once, why would I come again? I already went there. So it's not the same thing every time. And by the way, we can say this because we're in Florida. Most of you are from the South. Yeah, most of them.
Every corner.
Every corner.
All over.
This is not offensive, but some of you will really get this.
That
Some
means
of
it's
you
probably
won't.
a little offensive.
Some of you will really get this. The world's greatest, always have something to invite people to offer, is church. And it meets all four criteria. Sunday church. You're not confused. It's not sometimes on Tuesdays. It's every Sunday, 10 o'clock. Brings people together. We get together. You know why people go to church? Community. Because you could get the message at home, you could read a book, but you want to go and be with other people that are like-minded and sing the songs and do the things that you like, and you feel good to be around other people that are all in the same boat, in the same camp, doing the same things. So if you would build that, people are starting to come into church. And when you're in church and you're like, my relationship's not very good, not where I want it to be, so who do you ask? You ask the boss of church. So now I'm sitting in my book club and I'm like, the chiropractic office. Sometimes I get headaches and I got that knee thing. I wonder if this could help me. Who would I ask? I'd ask the boss of the group. I'd say, Kels, hey, this is how you know it's working. You've got to commit to this over time, that this is the telltale sign that's working. Hey, Kelsey, you're a chiropractor, right? Hey, do you think that this thing that you guys do, think it helped somebody that had like headaches or knee pain? I'm going to give you $1 million response. $1 million. It's worth $1 million. Somebody says to you, do you think chiropractic can help headaches? What do you respond?
Yes.
See, room of upper cervical chiropractors. The answer is, why do you ask? Why do you ask? Because it's very different how I'm going to answer her if she says, because I have headaches all the time, versus if she says, my mom, who lives in Ontario, Canada, gets frequent headaches. I need to know, why are you asking me this? So don't assume and run into your, well, let me tell you about upper cervical. There's the top two bones of the neck. Every nerve fiber, that's again a wild, just frame yourself. Every time somebody asks you, do it to your patients. Hey, do you think that this could, I could, my daughter's scoliosis could be helped with what you do? I don't know, why do you ask? Well, because I've tried 13 different things, right? And that's a different thing than, well, I was just wondering, just something occurred to me last night. Two totally different things. You need to know. They're going to pre-frame for you how to close them if you will just say, why are you asking me that? Interesting question. What brought that to mind, right? So then they're going to ask the boss, and now it's on, and now you can move to closing.
So I got to add to that, because it's really important that once you figure out your ideal client, target market, and you create this ash tiptoe for them, you have to understand it's not going to take off right away. We have so many people that quit before it gets going. And if you stick with it, the community will grow, and the community will overtake the community to where most of the time you don't even have to show up. And so if you can commit to sticking to it, I promise that it'll reap huge reward for you. The other thing is that most ideal clients don't like to be in a teaching environment. So when you're creating this, again, it should be a low barrier, fun, engaging thing that they can do where they're not feeling like they're being taught or sitting in a class. We've seen that go sideways many, many times, right?
Most times.
Most times, I would say. So I'm going to give you two more examples before we go into the next one. My office is in Silicon Valley, which is full of tech nerds. And one of my associates, Dr. Alexa, she is a total geek. She loves all things nerdy and geeky, and she created and Always Have Something To called Geekazoids. And they literally would get together and play, I don't even know what they were playing. They would watch Rick and Morty and play weird games.
They went to
and
the
watch,
Star Wars premiere.
They went to the Star Wars premiere, watch these weird movies. They watch they watch other people play games on TV. This is like the craziest culture. But it literally got so big that they started to have it more frequently. So it's in our office once a month, and then it's outside of the office every other week. And so the community took over, and it's allowed her to take care of a bunch of people that she loves to be around, that she loves to help. And do tech people have a lot of issues? Absolutely. They work crazy hours. They do horrible things to their bodies. Yeah, so it was a fantastic way for her to get into a community that she wasn't able to tap into before. So that's one example. The other example is a group called the F Word. And that is designed for mothers who are trying to balance work and family life and just kind of are at their wits' end. So it's a play off of the F Word. And so it's a bunch of women getting together over a lot of wine. And they do things like where we have somebody come in and talk about fashion or facials or, just having fun, family. They do all sorts of things with the play off the F Word. And that group is huge. And it's filled Dr. Alex's practice with tons of women that she just feels joyous around. So those are some examples, and they're very different. They're extremely different, but they work very well for those specific ideal clients. So it can be anything that you come up with for what your ideal client would really love and take to.
And to be is on the whole other side of that, wildly different from that, our clinic in Arkansas, Little Rock, Arkansas, the ideal client is a man, a sportsman. And the Always Have Something To invite people to offer is called the Society of Classic Gentlemen. And they get together once a month and they drink whiskey, they drink scotch, they learn about cigars, they bring in guys, they talk about fashion, bespoke, tailoring, how to tie a tie properly, pocket squares. And so even there, these guys that hunt and fish, and they want to know, like, well, I don't want to look like an idiot when I go to a bar and order a scotch, or I want to know how to properly taste a bourbon. And so that group, likewise, that group got so full that they had to stop taking people. They had to say, nobody else is allowed to come in. And that was kind of the name shifted. It was the Society of Classic Gentlemen, kind of became an exclusive thing for them as well. The next step beyond that then would be to host an event where you take your ideal client, and it's actually very interesting in Black Diamond Club. One of our ultra successful members, he writes software for martial arts schools. And he was talking about this, and he was saying, just host an event that benefits, and Lacey talked earlier, a charity that your ideal client likes. And then that's when you move the needle, you raise the bar, you would host something like a ladies' night, or in the Society of Classic Gentlemen, a skeet shoot or a poker tournament. Usually once we move to an event, there is a higher barrier to entry. So there's an entry fee, maybe $25 to $50-ish. And the proceeds are going to benefit a charity that they like. And we're going to engage more people, like massage or essential oils or things that they like. We're going to bring them in. Lululemon is very charitable and will participate. Whole Foods is very charitable. They might cater it. Chick-fil-A is very charitable. They might provide the food. And so I'm going to start to bring in these different elements that they like, and I'm going to raise the bar, and that's when we're going to have a sales. Oh, there's another criteria I need for you to know and Always Have Something To. The fifth component of Always Have Something To is no sales, ever. We don't ever sell them anything, no chiropractic. The only thing we sell them is come back next month. Come back next month. That's all I want, because eventually you'll sell yourself. You'll be like, hey, what do I do next? Well, we're having an event. Yeah,
the Always Have Something To is the feeder system into these sales opportunities. That's why you don't want to sell there, because then you begin to repel the ideal client, and you can never actually get them to a place where you've built tons of trust and credibility, and then sell at an appropriate moment to get them to move into becoming a patient.
This is something that we call stocking the pond. So we are at a ridiculously unfair advantage over every other chiropractor in our community because we own a community of our ideal clients. They are standing in front of Walmart just shooting at whatever's walking by. We've isolated. So remember I said, create the community, and we've isolated them. And now when we go to sell, we only sell to them. We only sell to the prospects, the people who are actually have a predisposition to actually buy from us. Lacey and I, on an outside scale, you can see this in action, we host 3 seminars for Black Diamond Club a year. Sales, marketing, and a money mindset seminar. They are sold out, all of them, every single year. In this room, you've probably never heard of them because we don't market it to you. We only market it to the people. So you don't see us shotgun marketing even with our own stuff. So inside of our offices, you don't see us shotgun marketing, blasting the community. No, we create our own community of predisposed individuals, and then when we want new patients, we literally just have to go to the pond because it's stocked and pull one out. And want a new patient.
This is a completely separate conversation, but once you've got the ideal client nailed down, please understand not just your marketing strategies are tailored to them, but also the environment of the office and also the way that you say things and the languaging that you use. So your scripts should actually be designed to speak in a language that your ideal client can get behind. Right? So that's a whole other conversation, but it all fits together. And when you can create this matrix and this beast to just keep moving, your office will fill with people you love working with.
So your ideal client sitting there in relationship with you, they understand that you're a chiropractor and they understand that we get together and read books. They actually in their subconscious begin to have a need. It's a need. They want you to sell. And in fact, we've focus grouped this where we've asked people where the focus group has said, when are you going to tell me about chiropractic? And that's when you're like, interesting, we have this thing. And so when they come to the sales event, you actually, this is not hard at all. All you have to do is say, hey, Mark, so welcome to the event. Today what I'm doing is I'm running a really great special. We're knocking $50 off the initial exam. But if you sign up today, I know that you've been kind of interested. This would be your opportunity to kind of explore what we do and to go a little bit further. And that's a need for you to understand this. In the 2023 pinnacle of community, all people want is to deepen their relationship with you. So I've been coming and playing at an arm's length with you, and now what they want is how do I get to go further? I want to go further. What does that look like? Well, going further would be coming into my office for care. I will also drop this to you. This is a big problem in chiropractic. Big problem. Big problem. This is one of the reasons why, on a deep level, why we struggle. In chiropractic, when is the relationship the strongest? In the beginning, the middle, or the end of the relationship? The beginning, because I see you a lot. And over time, because I have a natural desire to want to go deeper with you, you tell me to come less. You're pushing me away. I'm trying to go deeper. You're trying to see me less. This is a big issue. Then what they do is they find someone who will receive them and go deeper with them, who will allow them to explore at greater depths. Dr. Brooks' class, Taking Care of People, right, where we talk about the stages of awareness. They want to go deep, and your office and your business model, for the most part, is set up to push them away. You have to address this. You have to figure that out. That's a major business builder for you. Next, at the end of that, we're going to take all those people that accepted, that want to go deeper, put them into your care, and the last piece of this pie is to create referral opportunities. We have limited time, so I just want to let you know 2 major things with regards to referrals. 2 reasons why people don't refer. Number 1 is because they are looking for consistency of care. This is one of the reasons why you are very well positioned to be here this weekend. They want to know that whatever you did to me is what's going to happen with my referrals. And in chiropractic, that's tough because a lot of times they send somebody and like, oh, they did activator on me, and I tell her it was great, and they do this thing and it didn't really hurt, and then she goes and I was like, how was it? And they're like, they twisted my neck, and I'm like, well, that's not what they do with me. That'd be like me saying, you should go to Fleming's, it's my favorite steakhouse, and you're like, sounds good, and I say, make sure you get the filet. And then you go to Fleming's and you say, hey, can I get the filet? And they're like, tonight's vegetarian only. Wouldn't that really disrupt you? You'd be like, this doesn't make sense. The second reason why people don't refer to you, this will be heartbreaking, is they don't know how. They don't know how to refer to you. They don't know exactly what exactly am I supposed to do here. I'll give you this strategy too. Will make your total value in this time $2 million. Here's what I recommend. Remember I told you it's going to be outside the box? Bring the patient in really quick in their care, maybe on the 4th visit. First of all, you should have all of probably your first 12 to 24 visits scripted. On the 4th visit, if you don't have it scripted, write that down. You've got to have a script. Otherwise, how do I know what the heck you said on visit 4? And then, if I come into your office and you're confused about what you told the patient, on visit 4, I would say, hey, Kelsey, listen, about this time, this is usually when people start really thinking in their minds about other people that they want to send to our office. Now, I don't know if that's occurred to you or not, but here's what I'm going to ask. Let's wait on that. Don't send anybody. Let me get a little more time under my belt to really show you what we could do, and I'll let you know when it would be appropriate to start thinking about sending people into the office. Fair enough? Now what I've done is I planted a seed that told her, first of all, you probably might want to start thinking of these people, but at the same time, don't do anything about it yet. And now I'm set up, and I would say probably about at the 13th visit or right after my first re-exam, is I can go back to her and say, Kelsey, now would be the time when you might want to think about referring. Let me give you one of my very special elite cards. I'm going to give you 2 of these actually. And let me tell you what this is going to get. You give these to people that want to come into our office, and what we'll do is, as you know, currently there's a 3-week wait to get in, but if your referrals, I'm going to try my absolute best to get them in this week, and I'll give them $50 off. Fair enough? And she's going to get how many? 2. Not unlimited, you get 2. And they shouldn't be business cards. In our office, they are made of metal. They're like, if you've seen, if you're in your card, you have this, right? So
also,
now,
what's important about this is now she is going to use those 2 cards very wisely. She's not just going to give them to anybody. It's not going to be some cold lead, cold referral. It's going to be a referral that's going to come in because she's only got 2 cards to give away, and it creates that exclusivity feeling, right?
Who wants more referrals? Here, you want to know the hardest part of that process? So now when somebody calls you on Monday, hello? Yeah, I want to come in as a new patient. Who sent you? Found you on Yelp. Yeah, there's a 3-week wait, even if there's not. What? Yeah. Packed Slam City over here. I thought you guys opened up last week. We did. The first I can see you is the first week of October. Because now that validates when I go to her. I say, remember we had to wait 3 weeks? I'm going to get your referrals in that week. Right? You have to market from a place of integrity. So partly there's like, well, wait a minute, but we're not. But I want you to create a demand for the service to strengthen the referrals. Otherwise, again, why would I refer to you? What's the point of it? Like, anybody could do this. You just look him up online. Google Mark Lamantia, call him. It's not. But if he's like, hey, Mark doesn't take people. He only is in town one month or one day of the entire year, and I have the ticket in. I've got the ticket in. Don't take my ticket if you're not serious about going and seeing the guy. And listen to me, the guy's not cheap.
Yeah, and last piece to that, if you're going to give her a card with a discount on it, you can't discount everywhere else. Because she needs to feel that that's special. I'm doing this for your referrals only. This is a card that's going to get them $50 off. That means you can't go out to all these other events and be discounting your exams. You probably want to do some sort of value add where maybe you give them a $50 gift card for coming in instead of discounting it. It's the same to you, but it's an addition to that individual and only discounts for her referrals. Super important. Good.
Good?
Stop.
All right, we're going to come back tomorrow and continue.